welcome to NAC TV Reads the Press. My name is Chris Waddell, and I am one of many volunteers that help create programming for our station. You may be joining us online on Neepawa Access Live at WCG Channel 12, Channel 30, Direct Sightline, MTS, or Bell Express View. These broadcasts are made possible by our volunteers, staff, advertisers, and donations by viewers like yourself. If you enjoy what you see and hear, please consider supporting us by donating or volunteering. Contact our office 204-476-2639 or email us at nactv@wcgwave.ca. The Neepawa Press, March 1st. And if it looks a little strange from your angle, it is because we're reading from proof pages before the paper is actually back from the printers. March 1st. An exciting story, Resource Center property sold. And this is by Owen Devereaux. And a good photograph of the Neepawa Resource Center, which used to be our location. The existing land at 290 Davidson Street, on which the Neepawa Resource Center currently stands, has been sold to Buds and Bloom Daycare. The existing structure will be demolished in the near future and a new building will be built. And it goes on to say, the land where the Neepawa Resource Center currently sits will soon have a new owner. On Tuesday, February 21st, Neepawa Town Council passed a motion to sell the property at 290 Davidson Street to Buds and Bloom Daycare. Buds and Bloom was one of 3 interested parties who submitted tenders to buy the center. The others were CJ Radio, who made an offer of $20,000, and Bruce Brothers, which brought forward an offer of $25,000. The winning bid from Buds and Bloom consisted of 2 options. One was for $5,000 for the land and building as it is. The second option was $50,000, but for a cleared lot, meaning the existing structure would be demolished by the town. Chief Administrative Officer Colleen Sinchishan noted that the town researched Buds and Bloom's second proposal and found that the net value of the $50,000 against the demolition of the building would be equal and similar to the other 2 bids. Administration brought to Council the recommendation of accepting Buds and Bloom's second option, citing that it provides a solution that addresses the critical shortage of licensed daycare within the community by placing a publicly owned property back in the hands of the community that Town Council serves. During the question and comments portion of the deliberations, Councillor and Deputy Mayor Darrell Gerard noted that this decision would be tax neutral. He said that daycare facilities are exempt from property tax, but they are already received no revenue from the site because it was owned by the town. Let's continue that on page 7. When you read from proof pages, it's a little different. I have, instead of 4 sheets of paper, I have 8 sheets of paper one-sided. And continues, Buds and Bloom pleased with Council's decision. Upon learning about the Council's decision, Buds and Bloom board member Marla Steen noted that this is a significant step forward in their plans for expansion. We are very excited to have the opportunity to expand our daycare. We appreciate the support from the town of Neepawa. We are in the very early planning stages and will release more details as they come available, noted Steen in a statement from the board. Buds and Bloom, who currently operate out of a 4,400 square foot location on Hamilton Street in Neepawa, have been working for over 2 years on a multi-phased expansion plan. The daycare has been looking at opening up a new facility, but also keep their existing building operational. The thought is that having two separate buildings operating at the same time will meet the rapidly growing need within the community for more available childcare spaces to be met. The town, which had owned the resource center since the mid-90s, announced in 2015 that it was no longer financially feasible to maintain its stake due to increasing costs to keep the structure up to code. It was estimated at that time that about $300,000 in capital improvements would be required to bring the building up to the current standard. At this point, there is no official timeline for the full-scale demolition of the building, though the town would like to move forward on it in a timely manner as possible. While we're on page 7, John Drinkwater has a photograph of the last train to Nibrock travels into Neepawa. On Wednesday, February 22nd, Kaleidoscope hosted the Royal Manitoba Theatre Centre regional tour production of Arlene Hutton's Last Train to Nibrock at the Roxy. Two actors took the stage, Gwendolyn Collins as May and Christian Jordan as Raleigh, in a flawless performance. Both received their training at the University of Winnipeg. They rehearsed their roles over a period of 3 weeks, tackling the challenge of Southern accents in the dialogue by referring to databases and the script. Collins teaches drama at the Boys and Girls Club in Winnipeg and has been involved in writing and producing and directing. Jordan co-founded Makeshift Theatre in Winnipeg, with opportunities to write and produce. The 2017 tour covered 24 communities, 7 of which remained following Neepawa. Pictured Collins and Jordan after their performance at the Roxy. The Kaleidoscope always has really, really good selections to attend. Back to page 2. And before we look back over the years, a more recent happening, Neepawa Hog Plant down for 3 days by Ken Waddell. In what was described as the most serious delay ever, High Life CEO Guy Baudry described the 3-day shutdown at the hog processing plant. The unit that is used to stun the hogs went down. It wasn't the mechanical part, it was the brains of the unit, said Baudry. The unit in question, which uses carbon dioxide gas to put the hogs into a comatose state before they are processed, was shut down for the best part of 3 days. That's 6,700 hogs per day that backed up in the system, noted Baudry. He went on to heap praise on the staff, as High Life is as much farm as it is slaughter plant, and the staff at the plant and in the barns had to make adjustments on the fly. We also have excellent equipment suppliers, he said, as a technician had to come from Denmark to get the unit running again. Local staff also went to work to bring older equipment into working readiness so hog processing could start back up on Thursday. We will have to double shift through the weekend to get caught up, and again, our staff have been great. They have really pulled together to get us back up and running. High Life employs around 1,200 people at the Neepawa plant and has production barns across Manitoba and Saskatchewan to supply 6,700 hogs per day, 5 days a week to the plant. Because of everyone's efforts, said Baudry, there will be little or no disruption for our customers. And Cecil Pittman's work on Neepawa Press, looking back, and his chosen headline was from 1967, Neepawa man dies in fire, 8 uninjured. Man dies in fire, March 7th, 50 years ago, 1967. First fire death in over 20 years. Carl Gerald Lawrence Partaker, 21, a former Neepawa resident, died in a raging fire in the Merriman block on Neepawa's Mountain Avenue early Saturday morning. 8 others escaped injury. Cause of the fire, which completely destroyed the block's interior, has not been established this week. The Assistant Provincial Fire Commissioner was in Neepawa Saturday and Sunday investigating the blaze. An alarm was turned in at 5:45 a.m. Saturday. 3 Neepawa pumpers, manned by 17 volunteer firefighters, answered the fire call. And back 80 years ago, in 1937, curling activities are entering around the Alec Dunlop Memorial Trophy, and to date the Pollock and McGregor rinks are in the lead, with 5 wins each. Although Martin has only 3 games to his credit, he has a chance to come up to the top. He has 8 games left to play. 1947, 70 years ago. Friends of Jack Coots may be interested in knowing that Jack and a friend were on the huge bleacher which collapsed during a basketball game at Purdue University. 1 student was killed and hundreds received serious injuries, but Jack and friend escaped without injury. 1957. The 1956 Fairlane model Ford sedan owned by Ed Flager, which was stolen from his garage, located at his home on 4th Avenue Friday night or early Saturday morning, has been located and is now back in Neepawa. 40 years back, 1977, we offer our best wishes this week to Barry and Barb McLaughlin, who purchased the florist business from Gerald Parrott. They have set up shop at a new location in the IOOF building. 1987. Conservative leader Gary Filmon recently announced the appointment of St. Rose MLA Glenn Cummings as the party's chief critic for highways and transportation. It's always been something I've been interested in, said Glenn Cummings, and I'll get a chance to look at some of the priorities in the Highways Department and talk about some of the expenditures we'd like to prioritize in other areas. 1997, a 2-week deadline to negotiate an end to the province's pork war came and went Friday, and talks between Manitoba Pork and Spring Hill Farms processing plant at Neepawa continued into the evening. We're trying to work with them, and it shouldn't have taken this long, said Manitoba Pork General Manager Larry Sedgwick. 2 weeks is plenty of time to come up with an agreement. Only one Winnipeg processor has come to an agreement with the pork marketing agency. The processors refused to deal with Manitoba Pork after the marketer introduced a new pricing contract February 1st. And just 10 years ago, 2007, the start of construction on Neepawa's new personal care home is inching closer, with the province last week saying tender documents would soon be approved. That's the greatest news we've had in a long time, Neepawa Mayor Bob Durston said after a call for tenders has been put out last week. We haven't received final approval, but they, the government, are reaffirming their commitment, said Assiniboine RHA CEO Penny Gilson. And they've chosen a photograph of a hockey team, and it doesn't have a date on it, but it's the Hoberlin Cup champions. From the left, Tom McKenzie, Harold Hall, Bob Tyndall, Cecil Murray, an unknown, and then Bill Adams, Hubert Hamilton, unknown, and in the front is Morris Norman as he guards the famous Hoberlin Cup. So if anyone has any information on that, my goodness, if Cecil doesn't know, there must be someone out there who does, because Cecil is one of our chief historians in the community, and we thank him for all his work. Page 3, Neepawa Press opinion. And we have 3 letters. 2 are local, and also a thumbs up, thumbs down opinion. We'll start with, go read from the top. A letter from Rita Friesen of Neepawa. Just wondering, Hospital Street is heavily used by young and old. Students attending the collegiate are dropped off on the south side. Often at the same time, citizens, many of them seniors, are heading to the hospital for blood work. There are the big yellow school buses, family vehicles, and cautious seniors, as well as foot traffic. Add to that the possibility of an ambulance approaching, and the scene becomes potentially dangerous. Would it be viable to have students dropped off at the north side? Students are already utilizing the Yellowhead Center parking lot and entering the school from there. Anticipating increased traffic and the increased need for safety for everyone, something to think about. Rita Friesen. The other local letter is headlined Carbon Tax Arithmetic, an Attempt to Mislead, and that's from Leonard Paramore of Arden. I received my regular monthly missive from my MP last week, in which Mr. Sopak tells me all the terrible things the government has done and will do to me. Of special interest to me was the section on the proposed carbon tax. I am told the tax will be $50 per ton of carbon by 2022. According to Mr. Sopak's spin doctors, this will cost me 10% on my hydroelectric bill and 11 cents per liter on my petroleum fuel. First, a quick lesson in the English language. The prefix hydro is from the ancient Greek and means water. It follows that we have hydroelectric in Manitoba, thermoelectric in Alberta and Saskatchewan, and nuclear electric in Ontario. The thermal generation burns carbon. Nuclear generation does not. Hydro generation, by definition, uses the power of running water and burns nothing. So how in Hades can I be charged carbon tax on a hydroelectric bill? As for the 11 cents per liter on fuel, a grade 2 arithmetic lesson, 11 cents. There are 1,000 kilograms in a ton, so $50 per ton equals 5 cents per kilogram. A liter of petroleum fuel weighs just over 750 grams and contains just under 80% carbon. There are some variants between fuel types, but a liter of fuel will contain about 600 grams of carbon, or 0.6 kilograms. Multiply that by 5 cents, and it comes to 3 cents per liter, not 11 cents. I challenge Mr. Sopak to present his arithmetic to the public, or else admit he is attempting to mislead us with what we must now, for the sake of political correctness, refer to as alternative facts. Sorry, folks, but I'm not allowed to call it a lie. And that's from a frequent contributor, Leonard Paramore. Thumbs up, thumbs down. And this week we have a thumbs up. They are invited to, you are invited to send up an opinion as an individual or group to the community. Please send it to 100 words or less with your name, and it can be sent to 243 Hamilton Street. Drop it off at the Neepawa Banner, Neepawa Press office, or fax it 476-5073, or email it to news@neepawabanner.com. And this week it is a thumbs up from Mavis Baskerville of Neepawa. A big thumbs up to all the vehicles drivers who slow down when they meet or pass a pedestrian to avoid splashing them. After the thaw, there's often no other safe place to walk but on the roadways. Thank you for your consideration. A nice thumbs up. I may come back to the non-local opinion letter, and you can always read the cartoon on page 3, Tundra. going to check and see. We'll do the most local recent things first. Neepawa Press Sports, and Owen Devereaux has been covering the high school sports. 3 teams, 3 titles for NACI. And the 2 photographs at the top left, the junior varsity boys team display their championship banner after knocking off the William Morton Warriors of Gladstone on Wednesday, February 22nd by the score of 59 to 45. And the second picture, the NACI varsity girls basketball team claimed the Zone 7 championships on Thursday, February 23rd with a 54-45 victory over Elton Collegiate. As well, the varsity boys team not pictured won their Zone 7 championship game on Thursday in McGregor, topping the Mustangs 68 to 59. A trifecta of basketball titles has been claimed by the NACI Tigers. On Tuesday, February 21st, the junior varsity boys squad capped off a solid season with an equally impressive 59-45 win over the William Morton Warriors. The next day, the varsity boys and girls also picked up zone championship banners with 68-59 and 54-45 victories, respectively. In the JV final, the Tigers faced a difficult foe in the William Morton Warriors. Ben Parrott helped to put Neepawa ahead early as he scored 13 points in the first half. That helped push the Tigers into a comfortable 37-11 lead after the first half. In the second half, the Warriors were able to claw back some of the points they trailed by, but simply couldn't overcome the early deficit. Al Kennedy led the way for William Morton with 15 points in the second for a total of 22 points on the night. Despite the impressive second half effort by William Morton, Neepawa was able to cruise to the 59-45 win. The next day, it was the varsity squad's chance to claim titles as the girls' team played a home game against Elton Sabres, while the boys traveled to McGregor to take on the Mustangs. In Neepawa, the girls' game started off extremely even as the Tigers and Sabres traded chances. Joanna Plaza and Marisa Crook led the way early for NACI with 7 and 6 points apiece, but found themselves trailing by a point at the half with a score of 24-23 for Elton. In the third quarter, NACI's Plaza took control with 9 of NACI's 15 points and helped push the Tigers into a 38-33 heading into the fourth quarter. In the final 10 minutes of regulation, Neepawa simply kept pace with Elton and didn't allow them any easy opportunities at the basket. But at the same time, the Tigers played smart, not getting into foul trouble and letting the Sabres climb back via the free throw line. Once the game clock ran down, it was NACI who held on to the 54-45 win. This championship was extra special for the varsity girls in that they lost about a half dozen players from the previous season and looked at 2016-17 as a possible rebuilding year. As the varsity girls picked up their championship on their home court, the varsity boys would find themselves looking for a title and some retribution against McGregor on the road. In their first game of the regular season, the Tigers had lost to the Mustangs 68-45. This was NACI's only loss of the year. In this rematch, NACI would start strong and to continue to press all 4 quarters to claim the 68-59 win. And we don't often read advertisements, but this one is very much community and non-profit, and that is for the Beautiful Plains Community Foundation grant applications. The Beautiful Plains Community Foundation their community encompasses the town of Neepawa, RM of Glenella Lansdowne, RM of Rosedale, and the area formerly known as the RM of Langford and the village of Brookdale. Non-profit organizations may apply for grants for general operations, capital purchases, and special projects. Grant applications are available at the BPCF website at www.beautifulplainscf.ca, Winnipeg Public Library, and at the BPCF offices. The grant deadline is March 31st. Only grants completed in full will be considered, and they make a point of saying that, did you know BPCF has distributed over $1.68 million in grants. $1,680,000 in grants. An important part of our community. More sports. A lot was happening on the weekend. Farmers eliminate clippers in dramatic fashion. And this is by Owen Devereaux. An amazing offensive push in the final few minutes of the third period has propelled the Neepawa Farmers into the next round of the Tiger Hills Hockey League playoffs. Lance Nugent scored a pair of goals in the final 1 minute and 49 to lift the Farmers to a 3-2 win over the Cartwright Clippers. This late comeback gave Neepawa a 4-1 series victory. The majority of the game featured strong performances from both benches. After 2 periods, though, it was Cartwright which held the 2-1 advantage. Off a pair of goals from Bryce Enns, Rhett Law scored the lone goal for the Farmers. For most of the third period, the Clippers were able to keep Neepawa off the stat sheet, with goaltender Troy Chandler making some big saves. On the other end of the ice, Neepawa's Brady Platt was also called upon several times to make a key stop and keep the Farmers within striking distance. Then, with less than 2 minutes remaining in regulation, Neepawa pulled Platt to allow for the extra attacker. This additional pressure seemed to pay off as Lance Nugent scored the tying goal with just 1:49 left in the third, seemingly sending the game into overtime. In an unexpected turn of events, however, Neepawa was able to push into the Cartwright zone with just 24 seconds left in the period and blast another shot into the back of the net, sending Neepawa fans into a frenzy. The game took an unfortunate turn with just a few seconds left as Cartwright's Bryce Enns slashed a Neepawa player across the arm, setting off an ice scuffle between both lines. These events ended up getting Bryce and Jesse Enns, along with Rhett Hall, sent off early. After that, the final few seconds ticked away without incident, allowing Neepawa to win the game and the series. The next challenge for the Neepawa Farmers will be the Carberry Plainsmen, who defeated the Minnedosa Bombers in the other Eastern Division semifinal 4-1. A start date for that best-of-7 series has yet to be confirmed by the press publication date. Once those dates are set, they'll appear in the Friday, March 3rd edition of the Neepawa Banner. And he captured a photo of the celebration after the win. Members of the Neepawa Farmers celebrate after a stunning last-minute victory over the Cartwright Clippers on Saturday, February 25th at the Yellowhead Center. And in MJHL coverage, there is a photograph by Owen Devereaux of Natives defenseman Sam Stewart as he receives his All-Star Award and jersey from MJHL Commissioner Kim Davis. Sam Stewart selected MJHL Rookie All-Star. A member of the Neepawa Natives has been honored as one of the Manitoba Junior Hockey League's top young players, as defenseman Sam Stewart was selected to the Rookie All-Star team. Stewart received his All-Star Award and jersey from MJHL Commissioner Kim Davies before the Neepawa's home game against the Portage Terriers on Friday, February 24th. In 46 games this season, the solid stay-at-home blue liner has accumulated 12 points, 1 goal and 11 assists. Other rookie all-star selections this year were goaltender Cole Weaver of Winkler, defenseman Lane Toder, Portage, and forwards Will Coop of Steinbach, Reese Gaber, Dauphin, and Dallas Tulik of Winnipeg. Here is the complete listings of the first and second team All-Stars. First team All-Stars, in goal, Roman Bengert, defense, Lawson McDonald, Winkler, defense, Brady Keeper, OCN, forward, Jeremy Leipzig, Portage, forward, Brandon Stanley, Wewe Sakapo, and forward, Mackenzie Graham Steinbach. Second team All-Stars, goal, Cole Weaver, Winkler, defense, Tyler Anderson, Steinbach, defense, Tyler Jubenville, Winkler, forward, Chase Brakel, Portage, forward, Scott Gall, Winkler, and forward, Jake Dudar, Selkirk. And there's a list of some of the stats there, which I will dispense with. And on the back page, there is a really good story that was submitted by Wayne Hildebrand, A Senior's History. Vivian Hildebrand, life has been a great adventure. Vivian Hildebrand was born on a farm south of Kenton, Manitoba in 1930. Vivian jokingly says she was born in a hen house because that is what their old home became when her family moved to a new farm in 1931. The new farmhouse, affectionately referred to as the shack, was home to her parents, Louis and Amy Richards, and her 3 siblings, Lois, Kay, and Barry. Vivian came into the world at the onset of the Great Depression, commonly referred to as the Dirty 30s. It was a period of hard times for the Richards family and many of their farm neighbors. Vivian's father, Louis Richards, emigrated from England to Canada in 1921. Traveling on his own, he got off the ship at Pier 21 in Halifax. The customs agent records indicate Louis Richards, from Cornwall, England, 19 years old, no possessions, $40, has farm experience. Like many young men, that is what he had to start his new life in Canada. Vivian's mother, Amy Patterson, was from a family who had immigrated to Canada from Scotland in 1888 to homestead the Promised Land. Upon arriving in Canada, Amy's uncle, Donald Patterson, took the CPR train to Oak Lake, bought a horse, and went searching for land. Riding north on the winding trails, there were no roads, he staked claim to a quarter section north of the Assiniboine River near Kenton. The Great Depression of the 1930s hit people hard. The motto of the 30s was, use it up, wear it out, make do, or do without. Vivian recalls, as children, we did not realize the country was experiencing a depression. Upon reflection, Vivian knew her parents were in despair. What did the future hold? Where would the money come from? Was there sufficient food and warm clothes for the children to survive another long, bleak winter? Today, Vivian wonders how people will manage when the next extended drought and depression arrives. Winters were difficult. The shack had no insulation. Every night, the milk and cream would freeze on the kitchen table. Every morning, the family dressed quickly, turning circles around the cook stove, the only heater in the house. There was no electricity, no plumbing, no running water, no TV, and no telephone. Lighting was supplied by one coal oil lamp. Vivian's father was a farmer. He seeded the land with a 4-horse team and cut the grain with a binder. Stooks were stacked and then loaded by hand. onto racks for delivery to the threshing machines. Everyone helped with farm work. Every child had chores before school and after. Child obesity was not an issue. Unlike today, only a few area farmers had threshing outfits. The highlight of the year was watching the threshing outfit coming down the road to the farm. At threshing time, Vivian's mother spent every day cooking for the threshing gang, a big roast of beef or pork with all the trimmings and at least 4 pies. Doctoring in the 1930s was different from today. It was done at the farm, not at the hospital or clinic. Vivian and her 3 siblings were all born at the farm. Weather allowing, the doctor would arrive to deliver a baby by horse and buggy or a sleigh. A neighbor woman typically helped with the birth. Surgery was usually done on the kitchen table. Vivian recalls her sister Lois having her appendix removed on the kitchen table. Each of the 4 children took turns having their tonsils removed on the kitchen table. The doctor placed a face mask over their nose and they inhaled ether, and voila, no more tonsils. Almost every family experienced tragedies that would never happen today with our modern health care. Vivian attended one-room country elementary schools called Education Point and Verity School. The schools taught grades 1 to 9 and had 1 teacher and about 20 to 25 students. Today's schools provide bully prevention programming, which Vivian supports. She recalls the chopping block, which was a thick log with a cutout of it on which to place a timid child's neck. It was a favorite intimidating act by the executioner, who stood over the victim with an axe from the woodshed, instructing them to recite their prayers. Games of football, softball, and hockey were popular, as were the games of prisoner's base or anti-over at the school barn. In 1948, Vivian was accepted into the registered nursing program at the Brandon Hospital for Mental Diseases. Her nursing career spanned 37 years. She witnessed remarkable transformations in the treatment of mental health with advancements of research and development into drug treatments. In August 1st, 1953, Vivian married Neil Hildebrand at the Brandon Courthouse. Neil was the Brandon Mental Health Center psychologist. 3 sons followed: Carl, 1955, Wayne, 1957, and Glenn, 1962. Neil passed away in 1997. In 2003, Vivian moved to Neepawa from Brandon. In 2004, at 74 years of age, she opened the Highland Glen Bed and Breakfast and operated the business for the next 10 years. Today, Vivian lives in Kinsman Courts in Neepawa. She enjoys the camaraderie of fellow residents and her friends. Reflecting on her 87 years, Vivian feels life has been a great adventure. Although hard times kept knocking on the door, the family persevered with hard work, optimism, and faith. In January 2017, Vivian wrote and published her life story in a book. Why? Partly to record some of her family history before it was lost, but more important, to share some of her life stories of the old days with her grandchildren and future great-grandchildren. If you have thought about writing some of your life story, Vivian's advice is start today. And that Wayne Hildebrand, who submitted this, is a Neepawa area resident, and he's documenting the stories of local seniors. Thank you, Wayne. And we have a photograph at the bottom, another one submitted by Bill Fraser from My Neepawa. And it's a very leaning little wooden shed with blacksmith clearly on the top of it. In 2007, Bill Fraser took this photo of a blacksmith shop located on the Burns Farm south of Neepawa. Once a familiar sight, a blacksmith shop is a rare find these days, And this one looks like it had seen some better days. And you're encouraged to submit what's your Neepawa and submit pictures of past and present Neepawa in high resolution version to news@neepawabanner.com or stop by the office at 243 Street in Hamilton Street in Neepawa. Include your name as well as a description of the photo. Thank you, Bill. And we'll skip the Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses letter. I think we have time to cover at least some of Rick Sparling's Where Are They Now? And Rick Sparling is a local author and sports historian, and he attempts to locate and catch up with teams featured in his book Amateur Hockey in Neepawa, a scrapbook. And this team is 1975-76 House League team. And in the photo, we get it up close, the back row, Don Kingsbury, coach, Brad Doble, John Kilburn, Al Sneesby, Brad McConnell, Daryl Weeb, Derek Cathcart. And in the front row, Blake Rowe, Al Hankey, Michael Quinnell, Barry Willerton, and Lindsay Kaspic. And okay, that's 75-76, so a lot of those guys we know. And we'll try and catch up with some of them in the remaining minutes. Gary Kingsbury, I last heard that Gary moved to Regina. He was with the RCMP, and I tried to contact a Gary Kingsbury listed in the Regina directory via leaving messages, but no reply. If anyone knows his whereabouts, please advise, and I'll get that information into a future column. Brad Doble graduated from NACI in 1985 between going to the University of Manitoba and working as a lab tech in the St. Boniface Hospital. As an undergraduate, he obtained his PhD in 2000. His initial work took him to Princess Margaret Hospital in Toronto, doing research on stem cell and cancer, and he later became an associate professor at McMaster University in biochemistry and biomedical sciences. He has been there for 10 years, still focused on stem cell and cancer research. Brad enjoys cycling, hiking, photography, and currently lives in Burlington, Ontario. John Kilburn graduated from NACI circa 1983 and joined the workforce immediately with the Manitoba Pool Elevators. After all the movement in the grain industry, that became Richard Pioneer, where he worked until 2011. John has been since working for AgWest in Neepawa in sales. He married Jennifer Smith, and they have two children, Madison 13 and Macy 10. John enjoys snowmobiling, golfing, and camping. Al Sneesby graduated NACI and went to U of M, where he'd graduated with a phys ed degree in 1988. He worked as a personal trainer for a short period of time, but Manitoba Hydro was offering a good program, so he joined them and is still there 27 years later. He is a power engine electrician and is currently the project supervisor up at Grand Rapids. Al married Kelly Andrews, and they have three children, Ryan, 24, Tyson, 22, and Matthew, 21. In his spare time, Alan likes to hunt, fish, and watch sports. He has recently joined up with his neighbor, working a small grain farm in the summer and fall. Brad McConnell graduated from NACI in '84 and played for the Portage Junior B team in grade 12, making the drive 3 or 4 times a week in order to do so with 3 other Neepawans. He then moved to Portage to play for the Junior Bs and then the Junior A Terriers. Brad went to the U of M business and still managed to play some hockey for the Portage and Carman senior teams. He attended Red River College before accepting a job with Manitoba Telephone System in Winnipeg, where he currently resides. Brad still plays rec hockey, golfs, and follows his children around to their various activities, those being Nicholas, 19, Anna, 16, and Megan, 14. Brent Weeb, I had no luck in tracking down Brent. If anyone knows his whereabouts, please let me know at rickbarb@shaw.ca and I will get his information into an upcoming column. Derek Cathcart went to high school in Neepawa and Portage while playing for the Terriers and played for the Neepawa Senior Natives while completing his private pilot license. He coached the Neepawa Junior Natives in its first season in 1989 and went to the U of M from 1990 to 94, obtaining a degree in nutrition. Derek flew float planes in northern Saskatchewan for a hunting and fishing lodge, and in 95 he flew for Beaver Air Service in the Paw. He married Tracy Hosfeld there, and they have two daughters, Ashley 19 and Kristen 16. In 2000 he worked for the province of Saskatchewan, flying the Premier and other government officials to their various meetings. In 2006, Derek has been flying a Challenger 604 business jet for a large insurance financial company to destinations in Canada, USA, and Europe. He enjoys watching pro and amateur hockey and spends lots of time driving his daughters to their various activities. Blake Rowe worked on the family farm and at the Neepawa Creamery while attending school and took a child care course at Brandon College. He returned to Neepawa and worked at Williams Tomboy store until 1990. And after 5 years there, he bought the store, renamed it Shop Easy, and has been there for an additional 20 years. Blake married Kelly Baraniak, and they have two boys, Jeremy and Parker. Other than his work, Blake is a huge fan of the Chicago Blackhawks, watches as many Hawks games as possible. Al Hankey went to the U of M after graduating from NACI. After university, he began his teaching career up north, spending 13 years at Cranberry Portage. He came to Neepawa in 2002 to become the principal of Hazel M. Kellington School and is still there today. Al married Kelly Harrison of Flin Flon, and they have three children, Danielle at university, Kaylin, grade 10, and Jaden, grade 5. He keeps busy following the kids from event to event and coaches some volleyball. Michael Connell graduated from NACI and took a course through Red River College in Winnipeg on commercial and industrial sales and marketing, and soon afterwards moved to British Columbia. In 1989, he started the Quinnell Realty Group under Royal LePage and is still involved. Michael married Tanya Canderol. I apologize, Tanya. I'm not going to try. Say your last name, your maiden name, who is also involved in the company. They have two children, Simone, grade 10, and James, grade 3. Michael still plays hockey in a church league, golfs, bikes, snowboards, and does as much boating with the family as he can. Barry Willerton stayed in Neepawa for about 4 years after school, worked at the local pub and in Dan's Menswear. He then moved into Winnipeg and got on with McGavin's Bread. He went to Edmonton and back to Winnipeg in 1990. Barry married Sheena McAdam and has one daughter, Mackenzie. Barry was transferred to British Columbia in 1998. McGavins were bought out by Canada Bread. He has now been with them for 27 years. The Willertons reside in Surrey, BC, and enjoy their trailer out at Cultus Lake, doing some wake surfing, board surfing, and boating in the summer. In the winter, they billet a hockey player from the Langley Rivermen's junior team. Lindsay Kaspic played with the Portage Terriers while still schooling at NACI, and after graduating went to the University of Manitoba in 1988. He moved to Melfort, Saskatchewan to work for Host Crop Protection as a sales rep for 4 years, then moved to Brandon and worked at Rowan Pulink, and then to Kosh Crop Protection, who bought out Simplot. He has been there since 1996. Lindsay married Barb Lee from Neepawa, and they have 3 children, Jordan, Tanner, and Mason. He still plays a little hockey in the winter and does some golfing in the summer. Fun group to catch up with because there's a lot of names that I hadn't heard in a long time. Thank you, Rick Sparling. And I think we've got time for the last little opinion letter from Canadian Federation of Independent Business. Manitoba small biz optimism leads the country in February. On February 23, 2017, the Canadian Federation of Independent Business, CFIB, released its latest Business Barometer Index, which shows that small business optimism in Manitoba remained very strong in February at an index of 66.9 compared to 67.1 in January. The index level is again above the national index of 62.9 and now ranks as the highest in the country. It's great to see that Manitoba's small business owners are now the most optimistic in the country, said Jonathan Alward, CFIB's Director of Provincial Affairs for Manitoba. It seems that the business-friendly policies recently introduced by the provincial government are being noticed by Manitoba's entrepreneurs. However, with short-term hiring plans remaining weak, with equal shares of business owners looking to hire as to lay off 9%, it will be important for the upcoming provincial budget to continue addressing Manitoba's outstanding fiscal and competitive challenges. Nationally, Canada's small businesses are quite a bit more upbeat in February. CFIB's monthly business barometer index rose 2.7 points to 62.9 this month, its best reading since January 2015. The destabilizing effects of the oil price crunch on business confidence now appear mostly behind us, said Ted Mallett, chief economist at CFIB. This new, more optimistic outlook in the resource sector is reflecting a more balanced effect across the country, though this has yet to translate into a higher expectation of new full-time positions becoming available in the coming months. Although not quite back to normal, mid-cycle levels, the index has been helped by improving perspectives in previously hard-hit Alberta, 49.8 index, and Saskatchewan at 57.7 index, which continue to close the gap with the rest of the country. Businesses with are most upbeat in Manitoba and Quebec, with index levels at 66.9 and 66.6 respectively. However, optimism in the Maritimes, Ontario, and BC are nearly as high, which suggests overall robustness returning to the economy. Businesses in Newfoundland and Labrador, however, remain pessimistic. Results and the full report are available at the CFIB website where they have a barometer, and that's from the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. So that brings us, I read everything except the advertisements in the paper this week. Thank you to the staff at the Neepawa Press for putting that together and having the pages available early this week. And just to remind you that these broadcasts are made possible by volunteers, some staff that are paid, but very, very few. We're very happy to have Nikki Miker in our office now, Monday to Thursday, 9 to 4. If she's not in the office on those days, she's not very far away and will probably be back shortly. You can always leave a message on our phone, 476-2639. We have an answering service on that line. I encourage you to pick up bingo cards this week and play our bigger bingo. The pot still hasn't been won, so it could be maybe this is the week, and you can pick up bingo cards. And if you're tired of hearing my voice, I encourage you to come down. Reading the press or the banner isn't hard work. Special thanks to Kathy Jasnick, who has taken on reading the Neepawa banner. And volunteers are always welcome, and any donations to help keep our programming fresh and vibrant and to help us with equipment and our ongoing work is greatly appreciated. So thank you for tuning in, and I hope you have a good week. Thank you.